The disease is crippling.
Why are you wearing gloves?
I don't want to touch anything that I don't have to.
A compulsive mental condition that shuts her off from the world.
I couldn't kiss her, I couldn't hug her.
These are patients who have tried everything and have failed. You're going to hear just a little bit of noise, drilling sound, but this should not hurt.
Now, a new kind of brain surgery could free her from its grip.
It's possible. It's physically possible for me to be happy. I mean, it can happen.
But when does a medical miracle go too far?
We're going to have to decide, is this kind of intervention limited to diseases, or are we going to extend it further and see whether we can make a better brain?
In America Tonight's special, Rewiring the Brain.
It's called deep brain stimulation, and it could be a game changer for millions of Americans who suffer severe psychiatric conditions. It has already proven effective for diseases like Parkinson's, but now doctors are probing deeper and stimulating parts of the brain in a way that can actually change patients' thoughts and moods, even their behavior. America Tonight has an exclusive look as a patient crippled by obsessive-compulsive disorder undergoes the surgery, hoping electrodes implanted deep in her brain can free her of a devastating illness.
Jennifer Geeson is about to undergo a radical surgery, a groundbreaking procedure called deep brain stimulation.
How you doing? Okay, that's all right. We're almost done.
She hopes it'll cure a mental condition that has taken control of her life. Jennifer has severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. It first surfaced when she was a young girl.
I'm going to go to the zoo, but nothing's going to be a threat. I'm going to be him.
Growing up in suburban Chicago, Jennifer says her mind was overwhelmed by numbers. She counted unusual objects and repeated behaviors.
I had this thing where if I saw like a tombstone or headstone in a book or past one, I had to count them and have them end on a certain number. And also I had to open and close things multiple times to make sure just to end on a good number or just till it feels right.
As a young girl, Jennifer was in therapy and prescribed medication. But throughout her childhood, the condition got worse. Her OCD, now so bad, she says it's a living nightmare. At the age of 24, she constantly thinks about death and germs.
Why are you wearing gloves?
Because I don't want to touch anything that I don't have to, and if there's some things that I feel are so contaminated that even if I wash my hands afterwards, that's not good enough. Like, I would want to burn my hands off.
When you say contaminated, what do you mean by that?
There's certain things in my mind that make other things dirty. So, like funeral homes are contaminated, so if I go by a funeral home, then I'm contaminated.
Do you feel that your upbringing had anything to do with your OCD?
When I was in second grade, my mom got really sick and she almost died. And so therapists in the past have said, you know, my obsession with funeral homes and stuff could have to do with her almost dying.
This is Jennifer's one safe spot, her bedroom.
I kind of like live in this room.
She keeps her food here to avoid contamination. Her laundry basket is filled with gloves.
This one's not going to work because it's on the inside, so I contaminated it by touching it, so I have to wash that one.
She wears these gloves 24/7.
That's Colleen. That was her first friend.
Jennifer's mother, Julie, remembers the brighter days when her daughter would play outside with friends, unafraid of contamination.
Back then, everything was good.
Julie says she's tried everything to stop her daughter's downward spiral.
How hard is this to see as a mom?
Oh, it's horrible. It's just, I mean, our whole family is affected, but to see her go through all this. There have been years where she hasn't been able to touch me. I couldn't kiss her, I couldn't hug her. Even now, I'm lucky if I get a little kiss in here and there. But I mean, oh, she'd be crying, I'd be crying, and I can't, if I touched her, she'd freak.
To not be able to
I'm
hug your own
dirty.
daughter.
For years.
We saw Jennifer's OCD firsthand when she showed us some glass art she made on a recent family vacation.
I do like fused glass. It's one of the things that I like to do. And I like,
Can I touch it?
yeah. Actually, never mind. No, you can't touch it.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
How tired are you of dealing with this?
I mean, it's almost like I don't really remember what happiness is like. I don't remember what it's like to be normal and do normal things.
What do you want? Like, when you say normal things, what do you
To
want
me,
to be able to do?
normal things are being able to shower in your house, be able to wash your hands in a sink, not wear gloves, and be able to do 100 things that everyone else takes for granted and thinks is so easy.
Jennifer has been searching for a cure for years. Her journey has now led her to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Doctors here are pioneering deep brain stimulation for psychiatric disorders.
The patients that are enrolled in these studies are really the worst of the worst. So these are patients who have tried everything and have failed.
Dr. Kendall Lee has been performing brain surgeries to address movement disorders for more than a decade.
What exactly is deep brain stimulation?
Well, deep brain stimulation is state-of-the-art technologies where neurosurgeons are able to implant electrodes into the brain and treat disorders such as Parkinson's disease, tremor, dystonia, and even psychiatric disorders like obsessive-compulsive disorder, Tourette syndrome, and even depression.
Dr. Lee has seen some dramatic results, like the case of Minnesota Orchestra violinist Roger Frisch. He developed a tremor that made it impossible to perform.
So you hand him a violin right there in the OR.
Well, we really had to, because you can only notice his tremor when he played the violin.
Dr. Lee had Frisch play his instrument while he tested the electrodes implanted in his brain to make sure they were precisely on target. When the electrodes were turned on, his tremor vanished, and he was able to play.
What was that like to hear that music light up in an OR?
Oh, it was amazing. But because this particular gentleman was a concert master, he had to get the music perfect. And so we inserted the second lead, and when we did that, we got that perfect note that he wanted. And so that was very exciting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Dr. Lee will now perform a similar procedure on Jennifer. She says it's her last hope for a better life.
When we come back, we'll go inside the operating room as Jennifer, fully awake, has her brain rewired. Jennifer Geeson suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder. Her case is so severe, she is considered the worst of the worst by doctors at the Mayo Clinic. No previous attempts to help her have worked so far. Now we go inside the operating room for an exclusive look at the groundbreaking surgery that could change her life.
It's the morning of surgery for OCD patient Jennifer Geeson.
Can you describe for me how you feel as you're about to head in here and undergo this major change?
It's just like I'm looking forward to it. So it's kind of like a kid on Christmas morning. You just want to get there right now.
It's finally time for Jennifer to head into the operating room.
All right, my dear, here we go. We're going to introduce you to the surgical team waiting for you.
Hundreds of these deep brain stimulations have been performed here at the Mayo Clinic. Usually they're for patients with Parkinson's or tremors. But now recently, doctors have been performing this procedure on people with various psychological disorders. And in fact, Jennifer is one of the first people to undergo this procedure for OCD.
The first step of the operation is the most painful. Jennifer is fitted with a head brace. Her skull must remain completely still during the entire procedure.
It may get more painful as we put the head frame on. How you doing? Okay, we're almost done.
Dr. Lee prepares for surgery as Jennifer undergoes a series of high-resolution MRIs. These are crucial to avoid hemorrhaging later on when Dr. Lee will place electrodes, millimeters in diameter, deep inside her brain.
It's like gaining X-ray vision. So as we're inserting, we can sort of look right through the brain and avoid where the blood vessels are.
Inside the operating room, the procedure gets underway.
You're going to hear just a little bit of noise, drilling sound, but this should not hurt. So this is the X-ray. Now we have both electrodes in.
At Jennifer's side is Mayo Clinic psychiatrist Dr. Osama Abu Saud. He controls the voltage of each electrode on a handheld device. Jennifer's emotions quickly change as the voltage changes. She is awake and alert, describing how she feels.
It's horrible. I know I'm laughing, but it's
You
bad.
feel horrible?
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Within minutes, the horrible feelings go away as Dr. Abu Saud continues to adjust the voltage of the electrodes inside her brain. This is the result.
I don't know why I can't. I'm just smiling. I don't know.
So you're laughing again, huh?
Yeah, I don't know why.
What is that like for her to go through those highs and lows so quickly in such a manic way?
It's dramatic, and I would assume that it's very uncomfortable to feel that you're not in control of your own mind, and someone else can take control of your mind through a device.
Jennifer's OCD is so severe she insisted on keeping on the gloves she wears everywhere, even inside the operating room. But the gloves also provide a unique way for doctors to measure whether the electrodes in her brain are targeting the correct areas to alleviate her OCD.
Are you going to be able to take your glove off?
I could take them off, but I wouldn't want to touch anything.
A different contact in the brain at a different voltage, and Jennifer's mood changes dramatically.
Like, if Cindy tried to take my gloves, I'd probably start crying.
Okay.
Don't do that.
No, we're not going to let her do that.
Okay.
You would not expect someone to turn off a switch that will say, I have no more OCD, I am cured. We do not have that. The DBS effect is cumulative. So you're going to get a little better. Then therapy comes and add a little better until you feel, okay, now I can function.
Smiling.
The highs and lows are an emotional roller coaster for Jennifer.
You're not going to let me be happy and smiling all the time?
I hope so.
But minutes later,
This feels bad? How does it feel bad?
It makes me very depressed. I don't know.
Depressed.
I'm just, like, I just want to curl up in a ball and die.
Is there an unlimited realm here as to what we could be looking at?
Well, I think what this means is DBS is really modifying the brain circuitry. So any function that the brain does, we have the opportunity to potentially modify that function to improve human health.
So with the electrodes implanted, the surgery now moves into its next phase. Jennifer will be sedated, and a battery pack just a little bit smaller than a pager will be implanted in her chest. Then she's off to the recovery room.
Jennifer. Hi. Hi. Good morning.
the morning after surgery, and Jennifer is doing quite well. Doctors have now closed the 2 holes in her skull, and the electrodes are permanently implanted inside her brain. They're connected via wires to a battery, but for now, the device has been switched off. Jennifer is part of a clinical trial. Half the OCD patients in the trial will have their devices eventually turned on, while the other half will receive what doctors call placebos.
What do you remember of the surgery?
All of it.
You remember all of it? So tell me about the laughing and the smiling. Why were you doing that?
I don't know, it was just like all of a sudden I couldn't help it. And it was like my mind was thinking of something hilarious that I had no idea what it was.
You're sitting there changing the buttons and moving her mind.
Yes, so that's a very powerful tool, and that makes you feel very worried. It makes you wonder, where is the science going to take us?
What did it feel like when your emotions were on a high during that?
Well, I didn't want them to adjust it after that. I'm like, I don't want that to go away. And it made it harder when it got bad because I just had such a positive experience, that it was really difficult to accept that now it was not just normal but worse than normal. So
doctors here say about 2/3 of OCD patients who are enrolled in these clinical studies have seen their OCD symptoms reduced by half. Dr. Lee is excited about the possibility of using deep brain stimulation for a host of psychiatric disorders, including depression, schizophrenia, even addiction.
Why are you so excited about this?
I'm excited because this changes lives. If you look at Jennifer, this is a very, very difficult situation, not only for her, but for her family as well. And so to be able to modify that and give her hope, real hope, this is amazing and it is very exciting.
Jennifer says she doesn't remember the last time she felt as happy as she did inside the operating room.
it's been a long time since I've felt like there was hope and that there was a chance that I could, push the OCD away and be able to do the things I want to do in life.
When Jennifer goes back to the Mayo Clinic, doctors could switch her device back on. Until then, it's a waiting game to find out if and when her surgery was a success.
We caught up with Jennifer 6 months after her surgery. When we come back, join us to find out if it worked and if the gloves come off. America Tonight has been following the extraordinary story of a young woman literally trying to rewire her brain, hoping to escape the devastating psychiatric condition known as obsessive-compulsive disorder. Now, we go back to Jennifer Geeson 6 months after her surgery to see if it worked.
Would
You're
like
okay?
Your hug?
You're
Would you
okay
like
with
your
that?
Hug? Yes, you can have another hug.
A simple hug. 6 months ago, this would have been impossible for Jennifer Geeson.
Baby steps, right?
Her obsessive-compulsive disorder had taken control of her life. She wore gloves all the time, 24/7, and no one could touch her. She feared what she called contamination.
Even my own mom sometimes she'd cry because she couldn't hug me, and she's like, I just love you so much, and it made me feel very guilty. And some of my family members made it even more guilty. They're like, do you have any idea how I feel? And I'm like, yeah, I understand, and believe me, I want to hug you just as much as you want to hug me. I mean,
We first met Jennifer last August. She has suffered from OCD since childhood, the severe psychological disorder cutting her off from other people and the outside world. As a last resort, she decided to undergo radical surgery.
How you doing? Okay, we're almost done.
You're going to hear just a little bit of noise, drilling sound, but this should not hurt.
A groundbreaking procedure called deep brain stimulation.
Could you take them off for me?
6 months later, the gloves came off.
I can take them off. Now, I feel like I'm not protected. So, I mean, if somebody came and poked my hands, first I'd probably hit them. So that's a warning.
So you don't want me to shake your hand right now?
Not gonna happen. I mean, I would shake your hand with the gloves, but not without the gloves. And I'm very protective of my hand.
The fact she could do this without paralyzing fear is a dramatic change. As part of a clinical trial testing the effects of deep brain stimulation against a placebo, Jennifer is one of the patients who actually had the device switched on. After the surgery, Jennifer continued to have the electricity levels adjusted every 2 weeks, as doctors tried to find the right balance.
What do you remember of the surgery?
At the times, it was like super high to super low, it was good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, and it was every few minutes or seconds.
Those lows were really deep.
Yeah, I was shutting down completely, and then when he would turn the settings back up, I'd be giggling and laughing and making jokes, and I had this weird half smile on my face, like constantly, I was just like giggles, and I was just, a completely different person. Well, at least she's not crazy.
At this animal shelter where she volunteers, she's visibly happier since the surgery. And doing this without gloves a few months ago would have been unthinkable. She says she has a much greater lust for life. In fact, Jennifer revealed an unexpected side effect of her rewired brain.
I'm more sexual. I'm more sexually interested. There were like times in my life where I literally was like, I think I'm asexual. I don't think I'm attracted to anything. I mean, I really couldn't even imagine being intimate with anyone without it just being like an uncomfortable hug with your like great aunt. To me, nothing intimate was desirable because I was so depressed. And
you could think about intimacy now?
Yeah, now it's kind of it's a curse and a blessing because now you don't have this desire to be intimate, but it's so like instant that I want to be intimate with everybody. And I'm not saying sexually intimate with everybody, but like I kind of just want to snuggle with people, and I don't care how well we know each other, and I just kind of want to be like put my head in someone's lap and just be like all touchy-feely just all the time. And
you like people again.
I do.
Getting to this point in her life hasn't been easy. Hitting just the right voltage is an inexact science. After one adjustment, Jennifer hit an all-time low. It put her in a psychiatric facility.
I was at the airport, and the lady, she was talking to me about my seat and everything, and I heard nothing she said. All I could see was the scissors she used to cut off the old luggage tags. And all I could think was, if I distract her, would she even notice if I took those and, slit my wrist?
Do we fully understand what we're aiming at? Do we fully understand the circuitry of the brain? Absolutely not. It's highly experimental.
Dr. Art Kaplan is a medical ethicist at New York University. Despite all the unknowns, he still supports DBS, if done right.
I think it's a very interesting area for medical research. A lot of people just hear about deep brain stimulation, and what they think of instantly is psychosurgery. We've had a horrific history in medicine of taking the brain apart. Think lobotomies. There are plenty of people who remember that era, and they don't trust what doctors are saying when somebody says, hey, how about I put a wire in your head and I stimulate a particular part of your brain?
Is this different?
It is different. You can reverse and simply say, if you don't like this or this isn't working, we're going to end it. And I think those are the big ethical hallmarks that make DBS different from all prior work in the brain.
Yeah.
Depending on results of this clinical study, doctors at the Mayo Clinic believe someday DBS could be used to treat other psychological disorders, and maybe even addictions. Kaplan warns it could also be a Pandora's box.
Where do you see this going 10 years from now?
This is something that for many conditions I think is going to turn out to be helpful. But you can see it down the road going in a different direction. I never really read that fast. Is there a part of the brain you might be able to trigger so I have better memory? This also leads to enhancement possibilities. It's not there yet. You don't have to wake up tomorrow morning and say, oh my goodness, they're going to be enhancing people's brains by connecting them to deep brain probes. 10 years out, absolutely. We're going to have to decide, is this kind of intervention limited to diseases and trying to relieve them, or are we going to extend it further and see whether we can make a better brain?
Jennifer's future is unclear. She sees a psychiatrist at the University of Chicago twice a week, and she's undergoing additional behavioral therapies, hoping eventually the gloves will come off for good.
There's no such thing really as OCD remission. It's not like cancer where it goes away and you wait to see if tumors come back. It's more like you get it, you manage it, and it's like more like kind of like diabetes where you still have to do your insulin shots, and just something where you have to maintain it, and it can easily just creep right back up any day.
So even though it hasn't been a cure,
right,
you're happy you had it done?
Oh God, yes. I couldn't really remember what happiness was like. So when I did feel it, I'm like, it was very motivating, because I'm like, it's possible. It's physically possible for me to be happy. I mean, it can happen.
It is happening for Jennifer. As for the others enrolled in this study, the verdict isn't in yet. But whatever the results, researchers say they will help us map out the brain circuitry and perhaps unlock more of its mysteries. I'm Adam May. Thanks for joining us for this special report.